Yeah, we're going a bit crazy. Yeah, this patch, next patch, yeah, we've got a lot coming.
A patch after that one too.
Yeah.
Or maybe just every patch.
Watch out for the patch after that one. It's going to also be big like all of the ones before it and after it. So let's dive right in. We're going to talk about some game mode stuff, starting with a very general change to kind of everything, and that's kill rewards, getting a little tweak.
Indeed. So this is gonna first change, and you're already getting a preamble. You know, we gotta start strong.
Bonus
But
XP.
essentially, there's been a lot of discussion around kind of the early game. This is especially true for Conquest, but it's kind of applicable to every mode. Where the early game has been feeling a little bit not necessarily sluggish, kind of the opposite almost, where things have been going a little fast, but it also feels like when you push your leads, you can get punished for it pretty easily. You make one mistake, and then you see, you know, I'm kind of back to even again, and everything that I had worked for the past, 10, 15 minutes kind of went out the window.
Yeah.
So instead of making one kind of big change, because I know throughout the years, and especially in like the past 2 or so years, there have been a lot of kind of
So we're saying there wasn't enough snowball this season?
And we want to kind of
the second most snowball season in the history of Smite?
See where we end up. And if we need to keep making further adjustments, then we will. But this is kind of the first step on our kind of train ticket down the line.
All right.
Bringing it back just a little bit to make sure that people
maybe they want to be number one.
Right, yeah.
Really
they're like, we're so tired of this being the second most snowball season of Smite. We want to be number one.
They're getting adequately rewarded.
Come on, season 4.
Most importantly,
come on, I'll take you on. Put them on.
We're just playing with the risk versus the reward a little bit right now. It felt like more recently, maybe since the start of the year, especially, the risk wasn't really worth it for the reward. Especially once you got up to a certain point of having a certain amount of snowball or lead, you could lose it in a moment from just one play that you might have just been, I was just having fun. All of a sudden, my lead's gone. So now we're making that fall a little softer, so you can take a bit more risks for that reward.
Awesome. Well,
can't
cool.
say.
That's good to hear. You know, it's nice to be able to say I worked for that lead, and then I was careful to maintain.
Can't say that I'm into that.
Going to push me all the way back.
Exactly right.
So awesome stuff. All right, so moving forward a little bit. We're getting into Conquest now, and Conquest has some really cool changes that I'm excited for.
Ooh.
And y'all might have noticed, J-Mac has not left us. J-Mac moved back to the driver's seat. Are you ready to dive in so we can start talking about this first Conquest thing?
Yeah, no, I'm ready to go.
All right, well, first up, we're going to introduce somebody you're familiar with, but in a different environment. We have the Bull Demon King.
That's right.
Let's dive in game and check him out.
That's a big map.
See. So you'll see a familiar face is spawning in the fire.
That's a big map.
Take a note here at what time the game is. You'd be quite surprised to see that it is about to be 2 minutes on the dot in the Conquest map.
Oh, wait, no, it's not.
And so one kind of brainstorm that we were doing a little bit is how do we spice up the early game? Because again, kind of going back to that early game theme of wanting to make sure like that players felt like they had things to fight over and to kind of choose to do on the battlegrounds, especially more neutral areas to encourage fighting, encourage getting active, taking some more risks. And so having this kind of objective to do is one way to do that for sure. So we brainstormed a couple of things that we could do when it came to the objectives, but we just thought the Bull Demon King has this kind of foundation in Joust. And he does have some fun little mechanics he has. You have to kind of juke him, you can pull him around and do things like that. And he just overall is a very solid boss monster, you might say.
Yeah, and I think he actually fits this area really well.
It also lets you reuse assets and animations without having to program any new ones.
Kind of
it's okay, we can say it. That's fine.
You can see it's only 2 minutes.
We can say it. All the designers are working on Smite 2, and there's nobody left to design a new one for Smite 1. That's fine.
Focused around mid. The only outside parts of that was when the jungler would go to the outside lanes to get Naga or the shield camp or the CDR camp, for example. But then they wouldn't be there long, and they would go straight back to mid, and they were just kind of hovering around mid a lot.
Yeah.
We saw junglers kind of trending a little bit more to the duo side, and it just ended up being really heavy on that side with the support, the ADC there, and then the jungler. So we wanted to give the junglers something to do on the other side of the map, push them towards solo lane just a little bit, and have a global reward so that the mid laner, the solo laner, and the jungler can all come to this objective. So that's what it's for. It's an early game objective.
The Bull Demon.
Just something to fight over.
What does it give?
Game and get the game rolling.
Hit him.
Get some action happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I was about to say, that begs the question, what are you fighting over? I mean, obviously the Bull Demon King has to offer some form of reward for slaying him. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so it's kind of twofold. The first bit of reward that, you're killing a neutral jungle objective, you're going to be getting global golden XP for your whole team if you do kill this bad boy, which In general, we have kind of designed him to be soloable by jungle. It will just take you a long time if you do it by yourself. Ideally, you want to pull either your mid laner with you, your solo laner with you, and you'll be able to do it a little bit faster.
Gold,
but,
XP,
if they're not in the
buff.
lane in the early game, it's going to be kind of
Reveal
obvious, right? So in theory, if you are missing
location.
your laner for a long period of time and you go, well, I wonder what they're doing. They might be on Bull Demon King.
Yeah,
But that's not the only thing that it grants.
That's right. We can see JMac hovering over there. It reveals all enemy wards for the duration of the buff. That buff is there for 60 seconds, and I'll spoil it right now. That's a 2-minute respawn, right? So if you're killing that on spawn, half the time you're going to be able to see the enemy's wards. And when we're talking about getting more action in the early game and getting some more snowball happening just a little bit more, really, that's your opportunity. You can see the enemy wards. You can either go up into them and
Did you
kill
just
them,
say the
so you
quiet
get
part out
from
loud,
your
mother
wards, as well
trucker?
as the global gold that you're getting and the XP.
This is your
from
first
the
patch
building
notes, and
itself.
you're on
The
thin
extra gold from those
goddamn
wards.
ice.
Or you can just skirt around them as a jungler and look for those ganks.
Thin!
The pass that you have open to you now.
Yeah.
Kick your ass right back down to quality assistance.
Gets a spot. So even if you, as the jungler, don't want to go over to duo, your duo lane might see, yeah, they placed down a vision shard, or yeah, they dropped a ward or a sentry or whatever it might be, and I can go kill it.
Yeah.
So it's very, very exciting, especially for those junglers, soul laners, and even mid laners that might want to venture over.
Don't say the word
Bull
ice, you'll
Demon
make more
King
snowballs.
there. He will certainly be there and ready to take you on. But one important thing to note here is that he lasts until 15 minutes. The Fire Giant now spawns at 15 minutes. And so the Bull Demon King can respawn several times throughout the match. So yeah, you'll want to be careful with when you're placing your wards. And also, we've seen sometimes in our playtests too, where we've had people actually use it to their advantage when the enemy team has gotten the Bull Demon King and kind of play baits around a ward that's dropped.
Exactly.
So
We've seen that before.
very interesting.
Like you'll see an enemy have they sentry warded somewhere, so you'd go place a normal ward on it, and you know they're going to come kill your normal ward because they can see it, and you just kind of play.
I don't mind another objective on the right side of the map. That's totally fine because the duo side of the map is
in the last 60 seconds.
Getting ganked
So
literally every
worth
30
doing,
seconds because
if you're
there's
the
just two
jungler.
people.
One thing we haven't touched on yet is the jungle items like Boom.
So I don't mind people being pushed over towards solo.
They will work on this boss, so that makes it much easier for the jungle to actually kill this jungle boss, even though it's
a
like,
boss
it's kind of
designed
a jungle monster
with the
somewhere in between
intention of
jungle
increasing
Think of it
snowball
like
by
how
being
the
able to take
Scorpions
out
were
their
back
ward
in
so you can
season
gank more.
7, 8, I don't remember exactly what it was.
Does rub me the
It's
wrong
similar
way.
to that, whereas you can group up if you
Maybe
need to,
it'll
but
end
you
up
can
being
also
okay and
Yep.
fine, but if the
Just
intention
Depends on how
of the
much time you're
boss
willing
is
to
to
spend there,
increase
between
snowball,
your
I just
camp respawns, your ganks, whatever is
I
is
beg
necessary
them
for
to
you be
watch a
doing as
Diamond
jungler.
Plus game.
You can spend the time there, but it'll
I
probably be
do.
easier if you bring someone else with you.
Yeah,
That's right.
Well, that's super cool, and I love new depthy mechanics like that. Because, like you said, there's reveals the wards. You can be like, that person isn't warding, gank them, or they are warding. Let's take the wards out, or work around them to gank, or get sniped at a ward. It's just so many levels to that. So really excited to see this in game, and yeah, you can see it, respawn again. It'll just keep coming back till that 15-minute mark.
I mean, if you can see a ward in Smite,
So
you
super
can hit
awesome.
it.
Love to see
So as
that.
far
But
as
there's still some more
I'm,
conquest changes we
as
have
far
to
as
talk
I'm
about.
concerned, this is 1 minute
Yeah,
of
staying in the
nuking
line
everybody's
of
wards,
bosses,
right?
We have Gold Fury actually getting some changes.
Yeah, so kind of, again, back to the similar lines. We want to kind of spice up a bit of these objectives, neutral fights, things of that nature. So Gold Fury is kind of, what you would typically expect to be
So they're
the
making
early
Gold
game objective.
Fury
It's kind of more of a
easier
mid-game
to do?
objective. The later, as the years have gone on, it's kind of moved.
It's another point for
It's definitely been
Snowball.
harder to do recently. So one thing that we're doing is that
It's another
when
point.
the Gold Fury attacks, all versions of it, they have a different sort of offhand ability, attack, whatever you want to call it, where they shoot this beam, and the beam debuffs you in different waves. The Gold Fury slows you, the Oni Fury makes you take more damage, and the Primal Fury makes you deal less damage.
Okay.
But instead of them stacking at 5% of their effect per stack, it's going to be going down to 4% per stack. So it's just going to kind of make it a little bit less punishing for those people that want to start the objective. Because, typically the way that it has always worked, especially in higher level play, is the people that start the objective, they usually lose the fight.
Yeah.
Not ideal.
Yeah. And it stacks, I think, 6 times, so we're bringing it down from 30% to
24.
24, yeah, so 1% per stack. So it makes it just that little bit easier to tank, and hopefully that more, it encourages players to go for it a little bit earlier in the game.
All right, cool. Well, to shift from the big harpy to some smaller ones, the mid harpy is also getting a little adjustment.
Yep. Again, kind of same idea, just giving the players a little bit more agency to feel like they can go and do camps without, getting exploded by them, which certainly has been the case with the mid harpies. A little bit for the past few patches, they've been a little bit more difficult ever since we made them 3 instead of 2.
This patch is off to a bad start for your boy.
The XP balance of that area,
off to a bad
it's just been a little bit difficult to do as the mid laner, and even as the jungler with jungle items, they still hurt quite a lot. So just a little bit less should be very nice for those guys.
Yeah, not to be trifled with.
That's right. Yeah, hopefully mid laners can just go to them, even if you don't have a health potion, right? Because you're going to take some damage. You're still going to take some damage, but it'll be just less. So you won't feel so bad if you don't have a health potion.
Sounds good. And is it a similar vein for the Nagas, which are also getting a change?
This is actually kind of a little bit different, right?
Really? Okay.
So these next few changes are kind of grouped together in a way. When we added the Nagas in 11.1, they were kind of the teleporter guards that were there as temporary
that neutral farm
to do.
Hold it out until the teleporter shows up.
But they've never really felt like they were worth it, really, at any point in the game. They're a little bit tankier than your average, like Harpy or even your buff camp. But their reward really wasn't scaled to be, as much as that time would allow that you had to spend there. So what we've done is we've pulled XP out from the side buff camps, so the shield and the cooldown, XP and gold out of there into the Naga. So not actually a change overall in what the amount of XP there is in each lane.
Shifting it towards the center of the map.
It's going towards the center of the map. It's going to let junglers get a little bit more involved if they want to, and just
guarantee
they're
more increasing Guardian base power next.
Got it. And that's coming from the shield and the cooldown buff, though.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. We found that Soul Lane and myself and ADCs as well, we're just getting a lot of free farm because that shield buff and that CDR camp weren't contested by anybody outside of that lane. So it was just kind of free farm for one of those two people. Bringing it towards the center of the map actually puts in the roaming supports and the junglers.
Base
they can
gold.
Contest for that XP, and it doesn't feel as bad now.
Okay, so they at least they nerfed the shield buff.
Whereas it didn't feel so good when it was less XP.
Got it.
Well, gold and XP between the shield.
And last but not least, this one's a little cool sounding. Invade.
They got rid of the small ones too.
Actually, we have one more thing to talk about with the cooldown buff.
Oh, please.
So yeah, let's jump back to cooldown buff really quick, because cooldown buff is very interesting, right? Because we had a long talk about cooldown in 11.1 where cooldown kind of felt like the stat that was all over the place. It was very easy to come by. So you removed it from a couple items, but what ended up happening is that even though the cooldown buff itself is very strong, you still run into that problem where if I'm at the cooldown, it doesn't do anything.
Right. Yeah, you get golden XP, but that was it.
Yeah, that's kind of it. You don't really care to pick up the buff at that point because you're like, it doesn't matter if it's on me or not. If I have 40%, I don't really care. So now instead of just not really having to care about it, you now can care about it a little bit more because it has an effect that allows you to have reduced cooldowns even if you have 40%. So you're not feeling too bad about picking this up no matter who you are, what cooldowns you have. A little bit of extra reduction there every couple of seconds is very nice.
Yep. Certainly makes the cooldown camp more important.
You get to
that's
see
for sure.
Just, tick down just that little bit. Same as the Chronos pendant feeling you get.
I was about to say,
yeah, exactly. But this is every 0.5, every 5 seconds. So similar to Chronos pendant, but in smaller increments.
Yes.
Cool. And I almost skipped over that. What a fool I was. All right, so now we're going to move ahead.
This batch is making me
invader penalty. Also
so anxious.
Yeah. So again, we talked a little bit about this with the kill rewards at the very beginning of the balance portion of the show. But this is kind of, again, in that same vein. We want to have players getting a lot more active. I know that players look back fondly upon invade meta with a little bit of rose-tinted glasses maybe, but we certainly, it's not quite that, not even close. But we do understand that we want that to be a viable strategy that feels good for players. And so, of course, the invade penalty is still going to start high. It's still at 70% compared to 75%.
Yeah, and that's at 0 minutes. Like that's at the very when buffs spawn,
minions respawning, buffs respawning.
I'm going to have a heart attack.
Nobody's invading at that point, and then it scales linearly until 10 minutes.
There's no
really happening after
fucking way this is a real smite patch.
70% number isn't really 70%.
There's absolutely no way
less than that.
We're 8 changes into this patch, and every single one of them is to increase snowball in the second most snowball meta.
You will feel
There's
the
no
from just being able to
way.
At that
There's no way.
10 minutes, it's back to 100%.
It just scales down faster, which is going to feel very nice, especially towards that mid part of the early. It's like a very weird time to describe, but you know what I mean. You guys know what I mean.
The way it used to be is you'd really feel it when you got your first 1 or 2 buffs taken. Right now, it's kind of okay. You can get away with it as long as you get your 3rd and 4th. Right now, after this patch at least, you'll really feel it more.
This cannot be real life.
The second one a little less so.
Yeah, so again, we're not trying to say invades are back. You know, invades not the meta per se, but we want it to be something that players can focus on. Yeah, if they want to play around the early game and really push it, they can. That should be something that they can do if they want to.
Yeah, if y'all feel like diving into the enemy jungle and, you know, risking it all.
What's the invade penalty? When you invade enemy camps in Smite, you get less experience for killing their camps. So that way you're not just getting their camp and your camp for 200% XP. There's a period of time, the first 10 minutes of the game, where you get less XP for invading their camp. So you might lose the buff and you lose a little bit of XP in a gold, but you don't lose basically 2, 3, 4 times as much. Now what they're saying is when you invade and you take their camp and you deny them the XP and gold, you're actually going to get even more XP and gold during the first 10 minutes of the game, so you can snowball harder.
Seem like baby steps. That's because they are.
Crazy.
We don't want to go back to the invade meta. That was really not fun for a large majority of the community. As much as everyone would like to look back on it and say that was fun, it wasn't for most people. So we want to bring back the fun parts in baby steps. We'll get there eventually. Keep giving us feedback as well. So
yes. We definitely are interested to see like where the data ends up after this one as well. I'm sure Max is going to have a field day with it.
Max the legend. And I mean, y'all hear us say this all the time, but feedback central. Like we love the feedback loop. We say we're making this change, we think it's cool, y'all come back and say yes, no, or somewhere in between, and then we kind of work to this happy middle point where like it's awesome in the, you know, like that perfect, we did it. So continue to give us the feedback and let us know how you feel about invading. So now we're moving out of Conquest, though. We've talked some cool Conquest. We've had a good time with it. Now we're getting to where the Assault mains live. We're going straight to Assault Town. And this first one, I think, just starting off with a really fun change.
That is
We're
tough.
talking God Select. So there's been a little swapperoo in the Assault God Select cycle.
Yes, absolutely. There's 130 gods.
That's a lot of gods.
That's a lot of gods. So we were thinking about, you know, what makes Assault very fun and what's cool about it. Of course, the randomness is a really key
I gotta
core
breathe.
component.
I gotta breathe.
But, you know, sometimes you roll up into Assault, you get a god that you don't like, you re-roll, you still get a god that you don't like, and you're like, man, I wish I could.
That seems
you know,
like
go
a nice
one more time,
change for Assault.
And sometimes you can manage to, you know, get your teammates to trade.
That seems like a
back,
nice
but if you're
change.
playing with randoms,
Second
you know,
chance
it
at
can
playing
be
a god
iffy
you
on
actually want to
if they're
play.
going to re-roll
At
for
least that's
you,
nice.
if they're going to even trade it back at that point. You never know. So a little bit more agency for the
Assault
actual
players get
individual
something nice.
going into the lobby to be able to re-roll twice is going to be very nice. Although again, healers still ineligible for re-rolling, and to accommodate for this as well, re-roll and trading time has been increased ever so slightly just to give you a little more time to think about your selection as well.
Yeah, with the second re-roll adding, there's a lot more trading as well, so we needed that extra time, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it just gets you to build a team comp as well. You know, when everybody's got a second re-roll, that is a lot. You know, so you can really craft a fun team comp around whatever healer you have, or you can, if you don't have a healer, you can kind of dig for one as well. It is worth noting you can't, like, if you enter the match with a certain god, you can't re-roll into that god again, so you don't have to worry about that too much. Somebody else could roll it, you know, they could get it back. So you could always get gods back that you had before in case somebody else rolls one away that you didn't have. So there's no problem with that. It's just strict fun, re-roll twice if you want to.
It's crazy too how with both teams re-rolling twice.
We're off to the races
on the update show. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's still
I blacked out there for a second.
Not including the trades, just what, you know, 5 people.
That is upsetting spaghetti.
You're still coming out to like a quarter of the gods.
And now I'm jealous of Assault players. How come you guys get a nice quality of life?
It makes sense, you know, because there's so many different characters for you to cycle through. So
I'm happy for
you.
you.
That's fun. You know, I've been in that situation where I'm like not a huge assassin player, and I'm like, all right, cool. You know, Loki in this game mode, not somebody I'm particularly good at. Let's try again. Ratatosker. Not for me, man, but I guess I'm going to play it. And, this gives me the opportunity to not get a third assassin.
A higher chance to get Zeus.
Or Atlas, maybe. You know. All right, well, cool. So now we get to dive in-game. We've gone God Select. In-game, we have some towers to talk about. So the Tier 1 tower is getting a little love.
So Assault has been a mode that's kind of been, you know, sitting there very solid for a long time. But one big issue that we've seen talked about is turtling in Assault. And so in general, you know, that part of the beginning of the game when you guys are just poking each other, you're sitting in a tower just waiting for the wave. Little bit of the boring segment of the Assault match, you might say. So what we're doing here is we are significantly dropping the tower's defenses in general, but they are also going to be a bit stronger. So even if you do dive, you know, it's going to hurt a little bit more. But on top of that, we're adding 50% damage mitigation to them. And you're wondering, wait, Lermy, you just said that we're making them weaker. What's going on? Well, we are. Let's move on to the next lower third here, because we are going to talk about Bastions. Bastions in Assault.
No.
They function very similarly to the ones that you see in Conquest. If you kill them, they remove the damage mitigation from the tower. So again, they are ever so slightly stronger in terms of their defenses.
Without SPL players waiting for scrims, Assault lost 60%
they are much
of
weaker than they are right now in live Smite. So you're going to have to
that
kill
was
the
funny.
bastions that are positioned on the outside of the tower
good.
line. So it kind of brings in this new mechanic of, oh crap, I actually have to fight to protect my bastions. Or, oh, I want to go kill their bastions because their tower is going to be much, much weaker after that.
Yeah, very smart. And it helps with the
turtle. I have no opinions on this because I don't play a lot of Assault, so I don't have a good hold on.
See, that's why I like these people so much. They get it. Yes, because he's a turtle. All right, so moving on to the health orbs. Those are getting a little twist.
Yeah. So another kind of this is more of a minor.
Complaint,
more of a minor touch here. But when we last made a pretty big Assault change, we added health orbs, and what this did was to help kind of unify how much sustain was going on amongst the cast, which admittedly at that point was a bit smaller. That's it was a while ago that we last made some significant Assault changes. But what also that means is that people are dying less, and in general, you know, if people are dying less, that means there's less kills, that means there's less pushing, and so we understand that feedback, and what we've done to kind of work around that feedback is that we're still like happy with how having these little bit of sustain orbs are like helping to, you know, if you get a character that has no sustain, you're still okay. You're feeling all right.
Yeah, you can hold up.
But what we've done is that we have moved the
I do feel like Assault is the perfect game mode
kind of lane
where
that exists
if you
in the middle of the map,
and 4 friends have had way too much to drink,
at the beginning of the game at 1 minute,
got
the center
10 pounds of Taco Bell next to you, and you're slamming some Assault
is not going to spawn.
In my head,
so what that means is
that's
that
the
you're going
perfect
to
time to play Assault.
Fight over that guy a
like,
little bit
that
harder
would be a
because
blast.
It's going to be your only source of sustain other than the ones by your towers.
I'm just
of course.
making
Those
sure.
guys are completely unchanged, but it's going to be a little bit more crucial to actually get to that one and not just sneak off to the side and go get the other one.
Got it.
And I think that one's more fun to fight around as well because you've got the corners and it's way outside of the tower range as well. So any action that goes in there really matters because it's so hard to get back to safety.
It's such a confined space that you start popping off with abilities, or I don't know if there's like a Hercules in the game or something with an ult. But we'll talk about that later. Yeah. So the last thing here is it seems like y'all might have affected the giddy up when it comes to getting out of base, getting out of the fountain every time you die.
Yeah, I mean, this is mostly just to get people back into the action faster. This looks kind of scary when you're reading it, like, oh my god, people are going faster? Like, what's going on? Like, why am I going back to my tower faster? It's really only going to be getting you back to the action.
There's a lot of Assault changes. Damn, Assault players are eating good today.
Going on. It is purposefully
Conquest players had any scraps that were left on the table absolutely taken away from them and given to Assault.
Yeah,
look at you guys.
One coming out of the Conquest base.
Y'all are getting more changes this patch than you've gotten in years. Congrats. I don't know if they're good or bad changes, but congrats, I guess.
So there's nothing to worry about in that regard, but this just gets you back into the action sooner. It can be disheartening, boring, whatever you want to call it sometimes when you die and you're spending all this time to run back to the enemy, back to your tower or the
I'm so worried that these conquest changes is going to be the nail in the coffin for last. He already has such a hard time playing Smite and knowing that he's putting down wards that don't matter because the team can see them after killing an objective on the other side of the map, so he can get ganked again and then not be able to come back.
Let us know how you feel once this rolls out next week.
It's gonna kill him. But next up, he could literally have a heart attack. He's like 80 years old. It could kill him.
We have Duel. And
it's not funny.
We have some band
That's my friend.
to go through.
Yes, it is. This is a very fun one because for the first time ever, all previously banned gods in Duel are now unbanned.
They're back.
All of the gods are back, except we are banning a new 38 of them, which is the 38 most recent releases in the game.
That means all of the best gods are back in Duel, right?
Cerberus is the earliest god that is banned in this list, as you can see here. Well, these guys are the unbanned ones. Sorry, I apologize. These are every god that is coming back from the old gods. The old gods are in, the new gods are out. So welcome back to these guys. And yeah, goodbye to the new ones. So goodbye, Newt. Goodbye, Bake Kujir. We won't be seeing you.
Yeah, later.
All of those guys are out.
I would love to see data on how many people play Duel.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy to see like Newt, like
I honestly don't even have a good guess.
Recently came out super crazy, and then like you look at the like last of the 38, and you're like, Cerberus been around since the dawn of time. I thought like one of the pillars. What?
Yeah, it's so funny because all of these gods still feel like new gods to me, just because I've played the game so long.
Fair.
So this is almost taking it back to when I used to play duel more, and this kind of goes back to the old school duel god meta, which I'm really interested in, where it's unhers, like 1v1s would be really, really fun.
Yeah.
It takes away like a lot of this new stuff. So if you haven't played duel in a long time, especially since season 5 or the start of season 6, maybe this is the time to go back and try it again, because it might be just the way you remember it.
It's going to be very interesting too, because there's a lot of new items, a lot of new mechanics since that time as well. But it's interesting too, because you've got characters like Kali back in the meta. You've got Bakasura. Like who else is crazy? I mean, you said Anhur is like kind of the mainstay, right? He usually gets through a lot though.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, Ullr I think was back in the previous one as well, but
AMC, Freya.
Oh yeah, lots of GOAT OG classic duel gods coming back.
Well, that'll be fun, and we're hoping that y'all duel aficionados out there are excited to get back in and kind of run that old roster, So super cool. Again, we're always moving and shaking on the duel bands. So excited for another one. Like, the masterminds on the design team always cooking up crazy new band lists. So, all right, so we did it. We talked about game modes, and now we're moving on to items.
Yeah.
So we have some really cool item stuff to showcase. All of it's really cool. We have some I'm super excited for it stuff, but we got to talk about a couple nerfs first. We have to get 2 nerfs out of the way.
Just a couple.
So let's just get right into it. Yeah, with Sphinx's Bauble, kind of a hot topic item recently.
Are we shocked? Probably not. We talked about it a little bit on the bonus balance notes that Sphinx's Baubles was certainly an item that was meta warping for certain characters. Disruptive is a way to put it. So we definitely noticed a stark increase in the amount of individuals purchasing Sphinx's Bauble after removing the downside, which we thought is cool.
Generally a good thing. Yeah.
What we wanted.
But a little too much in that direction, maybe. And my personal issues with it is that it was in the early game too much, and that was mostly due to the price. So that's what we've hit. And I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know better, might be the biggest single price increase we've ever done.
Maybe ever. Outside of actual reworks, it might be the biggest price increase ever. And the reason is because we, again, like Bro was saying, we want to make sure that it is firmly not like a 4th or 5th slot. This is going into your last luxury slot if you want it there.
Right. And that's when more gods have the cooldown as well to be able to use this.
Exactly.
Or you can actually, if you're someone other than the soul laner, you can go pick up the cooldown buff, or you make sure you have that blue tiki. So more often than not, you're going to be able to use Sphinx's Bauble at that later in the game.
It
kind of pushes away those builds of I've seen people building Jotuns
and
Failnot in their first 2 items just so they can go Sphinx's Bauble in the 3rd item. It's that isn't necessarily how we want to. It's fun for some people. You can still do it. It's going to cost you a bit more gold. But it was a little too disruptive in that regard, and this should get into the later game.
In terms of the strength of it, though, it's still going to be as strong as ever. Just going to take you a significantly bigger commitment to actually get there.
Yeah, it's going to run your pockets just a little more, just a hair. Or kind of not a hair, I guess, like you said. Kind of a lot, actually.
It's kind of a lot.
All right, so the other item catching a nerf right now is Conduit Gem.
Yes, this is mostly focused around those solo lane guardians and mages picking them up. This also will certainly affect the mid laners clearing as well, but we've been kind of back and forth on this item a couple times, but we finally have gotten to the place where we feel like this is the right nerf to do, and it's going to just slow down that clear.
They have no idea what to do with Conduit Gem.
It does the gods. It just felt like there was too much early clear coming from this.
They have no idea what to do with Conduit Gem.
If it does turn out to be impacting mages more than what we would like, then I'm sure we could adjust the power or do something to help mages and help the guardians as much. But this one specifically targeting those early clear guardians in the solo lane, making Sands of Time maybe brings Conduit Gem a bit down to Sands of Time level for the clear.
Got it. Well, super rad, and that does the 2 item nerfs that I had mentioned.
Honestly, at 1 damage, Conduit Gem
very cool
might be pretty dead for mages.
They're new.
It might still be good on Guardians, but pretty dead on mages. It probably should have been 1.5.
We might even get to see one of these in game. Am I right about that?
Probably should have been 1.5.
Ready to go with it.
All right. Well, cool. So this first item is called Stormseeker. How about y'all talk about it a little bit?
Yes. So Stormseeker is a brand new item that builds off of Hunter's Bow. So this is in the bow tree. It's in the same segment as Silver Branch and Atalantis, as you can see here.
Ooh, it's
right
pretty.
next to the other bow buds. And what this does is that it is 1,900 gold, so it is very cheap.
Cheap little item.
But its stats, they're kind of low. 15 physical power for a tier 3 item is possibly one of the lowest in the game, if not the lowest. And it's also got 20% attack speed. But what you'll notice here, and we spoiled this a bit on Twitter, is that every time you basic attack a god, you get a permanent stack of attack speed. But it is a very, very small stack. Very small stack. But the other thing that you'll notice, if you eagle-eyed viewers were checking out that description, is that it stacks all the way to 999.
That's a big number.
We're gonna be here a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
That can't be viable, right? Every 100 autos you land is
the first item, so you can really
15% attack speed.
You can buy it on your first back a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And then you can come back.
So you'd have to get to,
as much as possible.
Yeah.
In order to make it worth, you'd have to get it to like
stacks. It ends up being a really efficient item.
200-300 stacks before you start to get a return on your investment.
Not getting stacks from hitting minions.
Yeah.
Absolutely intended.
I mean, how many autos do you really get on enemy gods in a game? You know? I mean, maybe there's a world where you can abuse this in Silver Branch.
In Assault.
You know?
Oh my God. What was the highest I think
maybe
that
there's a world
from playtesters like 450?
Where you can abuse it with Silver Branch. But like,
it as Ishtar
you attack a god.
As many stacks as I could. Maybe a little bit of inting for stacks there, you might say.
12 times.
A lot of our arena to be fair.
ADC versus ADC in the early game, and they're dead, and then you can't get any more stacks.
It was really good too. So much fun.
Right?
The 3 stack. Of course, it means you have to hit those knives, which is not where my specialty lies.
That is the problem. Hitting basics. Little skill check, but.
I want to buy Griffin Wing as well. Help a little bit more attack speed and faster projection.
That sounds like such a fun combo, dude.
There you go. You can do it.
All right, I'm running Hunters in Arena now. Cool. But yeah,
it would be fun if somebody could break this item. Yeah, maybe Izanami if she gets double credit on the outward and inward proc.
Normal duration of a game. If
could stack it twice as fast. Maybe there's something there.
I'll be impressed.
If it's like, you know, you're bot stacking and it's a 57-minute game, then all right, sure. But like in a normal game, it's basically an infinitely stacking item.
Yeah, I mean, we were seeing averages like, and our playtest kind of,
maybe
you know, they
cherry,
vary a little bit. We have new players come and try things out. We have very experienced players. I mean, obviously, Rose an SPL coach. We have people like Chaos, who previous SPL players as well.
Yeah.
And they, you know, we were sitting, you know, between like 200-300 on the upper end of things, and you know, when you get kind of crazy and into a little bit, maybe it's up in the 400s. Games get long, they can get up in there. But yeah, I will be sincerely impressed if anyone does hit the 999. But it starts to get worth it, you know, around that like 150,
this seems like a meme item to me.
This was a really worthwhile.
I just don't see a world.
I just want to say, if somebody does hit 999, please tell us.
I don't see a world.
Tweet us.
Please.
200 stacks is probably when you finally get.
Yeah, we have JMac working on it right now, but how
your like money's worth, and that's gonna take all games.
So
I think one fun way to think about this one as well is, you know, if you want to think about how many stacks you can get, think about how much damage you do in one of your normal games, and remember that includes ability damage and item damage and everything like that. If each one of your auto attacks is only doing 100 damage, and let's say you only have, you know, 22,000 damage in your game, then that's not that many stacks, right?
Yeah.
So just think about, you're going to have to do a lot of damage to be able to get this many stacks, or you just do a lot of little hits, but a lot of attack speed. Like you said, Griffin Wings I think will be really good, and just build stacks that way. So it'll be a fun challenge for the community.
It will be. And
I'm so excited.
Again, this
is an item that's going to get built
the game within
98% of the time because somebody in chat comes up with a meme build.
Lane, boxing out your lane, or all this other stuff.
It's going to have a 90% request build rate.
Go up.
That's right.
That to me, that just it's like
brain happy.
Checking off something on your checklist.
And content creators posting big numbers with their thumbnails, saying, "You won't believe how many stacks I got."
One more new item.
Loyal, are you on that? Are you on the thumbnail?
So first things first, we should probably talk about is
nearly capped stacks. Have like 340.
Learn me. There are 4 katanas already. Golden Blade is out, my friends. No more Golden Blade.
We sold it at the pawn.
This is a bit of a tough decision for us, honestly.
Certainly, we're not taking away Golden Blade without putting anything in place to it in a meta where auto attack junglers are awful.
Your Mercuries and your Collies,
right?
Arachnes,
certainly not.
And even had a brief stint in the solo lane.
Certainly not in an ability meta
of Golden Shard. We felt like its purchase rate.
We're not taking away the only item that makes them partly viable.
Pick up, and we thought, well, we might as well add something in its place that feels like a fun new replacement for it. And that, my friends, is Equinox.
Yeah, I think there might be a lot of semi-upset people in the chat right now being like, oh, I really love Golden Blade, but trust me, you're going to love this more. On the same gods that you bought Golden Blade on, you're probably going to buy this item too. Okay. I will argue that it's a lot better, and I think
But will it give you early game clear for the new snowball that we are putting in the game? That's all that matters.
It's about the same kind of stat level. Yeah, it's the same exact stats that you were getting from Golden Blade. And you'll see exactly why. But if we flip over to the next lower third to see the passive here, there are 2 of them, but you probably are wondering, how does this trigger? Well, you guys know backstab, right?
Loki passive.
Yeah. Loki passive. You hit someone from the front, it does something different from the back. It's kind of the same idea here, where when you attack an enemy with a basic attack from the front, you're actually going to heal a little bit. So if you're sitting there boxing someone, mano a mano, fighting it out, you're going to be healing a little bit. Just a little bit, though, and it's doubled against gods. So if you're actually doing this against gods, it's going to feel a lot better.
The argument for taking away your early clear item
if you are attacking an enemy
is that you've got an item that will give you an extra 18 physical damage.
Very
when
nice,
Mercury
can
crit you for 600 at level 6.
Someone like a Wheelix, for example, you do a little feather step, bop them from the back, any of those kind of things. That's going to be also
interesting
a nice
math for sure.
There. So it's been so much fun.
It has
just being able to even in solo lane, being able to box a little bit better with this item, and then they start running away from you, and you're like, oh, this is just what I wanted actually.
Exactly.
And now you take a little bit of extra damage when you're running away.
Yeah, even as the person facing it, you kind of have to play that game with yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do I want to sit here and box this person while they're getting healing? You have to kind of do the math in your head. Like, am I going to win that trade eventually, or do I need to turn around and run, take the extra damage?
Did the devs play recently, or are they all on Smite 2 and just guessing stuff? This just they have to be playing Smite 2, right?
I mean, the jungle, I think it's really.
They were told
surprise an enemy
that they had like an assignment due, and they're like, yeah, it's all good, it's all good. I'm gonna help them out with Smite 2 really quick, and then all of a sudden they have to throw a patch together. They're like, ah, crap! People are still playing Smite. That's right.
A lot of objective damage.
That's right.
It'll heal you when you're hitting a jungle camp in the jungle, so there's a lot of sustain throughout the jungle. This item works everywhere on the map.
What is
happening? It just kind of changes the way you play and changes the way you think about the game, which is really fun.
Exactly. It definitely has been very impactful, and we've noticed in a lot of our playtesting that, when you're fighting Gold Fury, Pyromancer, Fire Giant, any of these really big boss objectives, and you are doing it with a tank, it has made it very significant. We've noticed a difference in our playtests where before, carries are kind of the people doing the really big DPS to it. And sometimes, your basic attack assassins can contribute with mannequins or whatever it might be. But
I am leaving room
to that as well. Even as a tank, if you're building this item, you're
for
going
this
to be doing
patch to improve.
Damage. It does not scale
but
off
this
of your own
might
damage,
be the worst patch in
it's how quickly you're attacking. So I could see this
probably not ever.
Gilgamesh's Erlang,
but this is the worst patch in several years.
Picking this up, and it'll feel very, very
several
nice.
years.
Yeah, I think it was actually a playtest.
So far.
I think I was against you, Ro, in solo. I was playing
probably not
solo.
ever.
I went like.
Did I do something bad? It wasn't me.
No. Like just the amount of boxing we were able to do by having this item, because I think I went like Death's Toll Equinox as a combo, and it's just you and I just sitting there slapping each other the whole time. So it's a really fun item just to encourage that level of fighting, and then if one person's got to run, you got to have that risk. Do I stand my ground and fight and try and sustain, or do I run and maybe risk taking the extra damage?
Right, yeah. I think there's a lot in this patch that just really encourages you to get in there, play the game, and fight.
Yeah.
Get into those combats.
Surely there was patches back for like season 4 that were worse.
More excited about these
surely.
There are a lot of gods in Smite. We've already talked
about.
But
this is actually really reminiscent of season 4 strategies. Like, what if there was just a little bit more snowball?
That both sound insane.
What if there was an entire class of gods that isn't getting played, and we just make them worse for no reason?
So next Tuesday, by the way, really close. All right, anyway,
it's got the same vibes.
To talk about, and we're gonna move on to Erendite actually coming up next, in some more traditional balancy ways.
Yeah, so we've got our 2 new items off the board, and now we are back to ye old Erendite in the Gem of Fate tree. So this item has kind of had a hard time finding its place into builds.
Yeah.
It has a very unique stat spread, and even back to recently we added movement speed to the actual
That's
base
fine.
of the item.
Nobody buys Erendite. I don't mind an Erendite buff.
It just still hasn't seen very much success, which is a little bit disappointing to see. So we're just doing a couple small buffs here and there. None of these buffs in particular are really that big individually, but together we're hoping that we see a little bit more action from this item, especially with the damage going up, the duration, and the price going down all at the same time. Theoretically, something here is bound to hit the dartboard.
I think this item is strong, and we're making it a little bit stronger, but it's competing with some really strong items like Jotuns and Hydra's Lament and things like that. And when you have a Boomba's Hammer as well, then already you're at 40% cooldown, so it was hard to fit this Erendite in, but at least this gives you another choice, basically. Yes, it is strong. It is getting a little bit stronger, but that's because the other items are so strong too. So just experiment a bit. You know, play with some different builds.
Having lots of good choices is never bad.
That's right.
Yeah, never bad. Now, quick interruption of this. I got a news report recently. The JMac is still trying to get stacks. Is that right?
I actually just finished. It took about 7 minutes. It took about 7 minutes of strictly auto attacking and not doing anything else. So
beautiful.
It's possible, but you got to dedicate about 7 minutes of your life, and this is with no stims. It's not like I grabbed, you know, like an Artemis or an Izanami and you know, kept my stim active as long as possible. That is just standing there and holding left click for 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
Yep.
There's one important thing to note on this screen, and that's there's one item in JMac's inventory, and he is at capped attack speed. That sounds crazy and broken.
Yeah.
And I think I would just say, I would challenge the community. This is me, Brave, first time on the Passionate Show. I will challenge the community to do it. Get 999, break it, you know.
Yes.
Do it.
You heard it here.
We can adjust it if we need to. If
it
you
will
can
be
get
physically impossible to get 999 stacks in any actual
I want to see
gameplay
it genuinely,
situation.
please.
Yeah.
It will be physically impossible.
We've been getting a Silver Branch bow request.
A game could go 2 hours
right,
and it will
now.
still
See,
not.
This is why
give
we
you
love
enough
you,
time
chat,
to build
because you
stacks.
challenge us to see things that are crazy. So again, I love the challenge.
Look at that. That's a lot of stacks.
It will fully stack a Silver Branch.
That's right.
But
again, that's 999 auto.
Yeah,
Anyhow.
that's good luck.
Not even counting like the first 5 to 6 minutes that it takes you to get enough money for this item.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes as much money to get this item as it does consistently, exclusively auto attacking.
Honestly,
unmoving, undying.
if the meta was 50-minute games,
yeah,
and then you could reliably get like, I don't know, 200 to 400 stacks by the time you get into late game team fights, that's super interesting. But in a meta where they literally was already snowball and they just tried to increase the snowball in like 8 different directions, there's no world you can get away with buying an item this bad at the start of the game. There's no world.
You've left an impression on the face of the battleground.
You know?
Okay, diving back into item balance, we're moving from Erendite onto Gem of ISO.
Yes, these next 2 items, they kind of go hand in hand.
All right, let's tie them together.
I mean, Gem of ISO and Frostbound Hammer. What do they have in common, I wonder? You know, they make enemies slow. Yeah. And here's the thing. They have not been very good as of late. They've been kind of falling off a bit.
Okay.
And a lot of this has changed since we did the adjustment to make Frostbound AoE.
Yeah.
And
those items are mostly just toxic
as well. But the way that this is different now is it still functions in that same exact way where it pops when you hit an ability. But now you can have a 100% uptime on it if you are constantly refreshing within the 2.5 seconds for Gem of Isolation or the 3 seconds for Frostbound Hammer.
Okay.
So assuming that you are sitting and able to keep up with the individual, you know, if they move away but you're able to catch up and keep up with them, you can reapply it again after that 3 seconds to essentially have that uptime.
Yeah, right.
I'll give you that.
It also means for like Gem of ISO, for example, if you have a dot that lasts at least 3 seconds or more, at the last tick of that dot, you're going to reapply Gem of Isolation and slow them again, which is an interesting buy. Like it'll be fun to see if people actually buy the item and experiment with
probably
ways they can,
not,
you know,
but
just
like
change their
maybe like an outpooch.
You know, there are a lot of good items in these builds already.
Yeah.
Let's add a little bit of variety, a little bit of spice, and see what people do.
Yeah, I'm all about variety and spice in items, so excited to see it come to the battleground. So we're moving on now to Fighter's Mask, the spooky, scary mask.
Yeah, so this is
wow, the item's still in the game.
An item that I don't know that I've ever seen ever, unless someone is doing a haha funny for content, which you know that's come up a couple of times. But one of the biggest problems with Fighter's Mask is that you feel pretty okay in the early game. You get it, and you're like, yeah, this is fine, and then you get to level 20. And you don't have Rangda's Mask yet, you're like, oh my god, I am taking so much damage. So much damage. So that is one of the things that we wanted to heavily decrease here, is that the early game felt fine, you know, not a big deal either way. So what we're doing here is we're decreasing the damage taken per level. So as you get later into the game, you're taking less damage, but you're also dealing less damage at the beginning of the game by 1%. So a very small nerf to the damage that you're dealing up front to decrease the damage that you're taking by quite a significant amount by the end of the game.
That's right, yeah. It would just ease that transition into upgrading the starter item. Because once you got it upgraded, it felt great. In the early game, Fighter's Mask felt great. It was just that midpoint where it was really rough, where you're just taking so much damage.
I honestly...
I keep going back to me
don't
wanting to
even...
get to fight more in the
I
game.
couldn't even tell you what the stats on
Fighter's
Fighter's Mask are.
You just wanted to farm and get level 20 and get
couldn't even tell you
your starter because you were taking so much damage. But this allows you to actually get in there and
I
use
have
the
no
damage
idea.
boost with a little bit less risk.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, all about fight. That's just the best part of the game for me, is the skirmishes, the brawls. So every time you say encouraging fighting, I'm over here like, yes, for me. So now we're moving into kind of a whole tree of relic. We have Divine Barrier and all of its trees or the items in the tree getting touched a little bit.
Yeah, so this is Divine Barrier, Greater Divine Barrier, and Blessed Barrier. All three of them getting a similar adjustment here between their deploy range getting increased. It was originally very low because we were concerned about this item being a bit of a combat trick. You throw it out and slow people, and we kind of wanted people to play around it in a little bit of a different way. But as we've kind of seen this item grow and seen people try this item, we've realized that it's definitely okay to have players play around it that way if that's how they want to use it.
Yeah.
But also we wanted to kind of take the cooldown down a little bit to just give you a little bit more chance to, like Rose said, play with it more often, replace it, remove it to wherever you need it next. So cooldown's going down on all three of them. And then for Blessed Barrier specifically, the basic attack damage buff is going up to give it a little bit more of that unique zhuzh that you get at that tier 3 level with,
it's hard to beat the classics,
so we want to make sure that tier 3 feels like it has a strong effect that you can definitely use in a variety of situations.
It's cool, but like it's hard to beat a good old-fashioned creeping curse.
It's still going to feel pretty nice when you're putting this in front of your mage or your carry.
It's hard, man.
Slamming down a phoenix, slamming down a fire giant, whatever it might be.
Awesome. Well, that was a barrierific three-peat of changes, and now we're on to the last two items, which are, well, I don't know, I thought it sounded fun. We're in the shard world now, and we're starting with Vision Shard, which I feel like is gonna, Vision Shard. We have the Bull Demon King Vision Denial aspect. So, a lot of Vision changes. It feels like.
Yeah, I think we've come back to this one. Has it been every patch this year?
It's been very close. We've touched it a lot of times.
Yeah, buying Vision Shard's a tough sell when they can see your wards.
That we're like, oh my god, that's gonna make it so good, and then
that's a tough sell.
This much.
You nerfed it harder than you could have possibly imagined.
And so we are once again trying something else, and this is going to be increasing the vision radius of it from 35 to 45. 45 is the radius of a normal ward. It's just going to feel so much more intuitive now in terms of the places that you can put it down. You're not going to have to actually really do that much adjusting when it comes to, oh, my vision shard is much smaller. It's not going to cover as much space. It's not a big of a deal anymore because you can place it the same exact way that you place down normal wards. It's going to feel very great, I hope.
Yeah, our experienced players that have been playing for a long time and placing wards that whole time, they know how big that 45 unit feels, right? And they just kind of flick their mouse or their controller and kind of just place the ward over a wall. But if you did that with a Vision Shard, you were kind of just leaving gaps on the outside, and there were gaps for junglers, and you could never be fully confident in your vision. And I think that just made this shard a little worse. So bringing that up to that 45 makes it more intuitive, like Domi said, and just makes it easier to use, so you don't have to have that extra thought about, oh, I need to place it this farther forward, or I can't block off this path and this path at once. I have to choose one of them. So it'll make it more useful in more situations, and hopefully people will ward more. And then, whatever happens with the Bull Demon King vision, they'll eliminate those wards.
Yeah, we'll figure it out from there, but, ward more. All right, so there's one last thing, and I feel like you could relate this to Vision. It's Wing Shard, but like you don't need a ward on Fire Giant if you just run there really fast.
Yeah, yep, and that's why nobody's buying wards.
Okay, yeah, that's it.
The Shard was kind of a superstar when it first came out. Very, very strong because it was at this 15% movement speed originally.
But then you introduced a Golden Blade Shard,
and then since then it's kind of been.
That was
a little bit less potent than it was.
And that was that.
It definitely fell behind Horn Shard and even Claw Shard to a certain extent. Back when that was a thing. Throwback a little bit. But now that it's kind of competing with the passive shards, it just has not kept up. And so we feel like we can finally bring that extra power back, that extra bit of aggression, that burst of speed to be able to really start
options are to get
or run away if you
the Golden Shard or lose clear forever and then get invaded, and now you lose even more farm.
But it's only for 3 seconds. Like, it's really not that big of a deal.
It does not matter.
Yeah, so bringing it back and just allowing people
if they remove the Golden Shard, then Wing Shard becomes very interesting.
Yeah, I'm all for it, because like you said, it's either...
But unless they're removing it, it's not interesting.
I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you later. So, and equally likely to happen, especially considering, with this whole new fight thing we're working towards, being able to trade a little more. I'll definitely be doing a lot more running away from the 1v1 I was really confident about 4 seconds ago. So, cool. Well, we've talked about game modes. We've talked about items.
Wing Shard Shade doesn't
and
matter.
now we're going to take a little break from the balanced world. Obviously, we still have some gods we're going to talk about later. Don't you worry. But we're going to kind of step outside of the balance zone and go back to the skin section, the event section. So
that little guy
next
down
up,
there. Maybe we'll talk about him.
That little guy down there? No, I doubt it. Probably not. I feel like I'm gonna betray my words by saying that let's talk about the Dapper Denizens event or cross-gen pass. I almost said event pass.
Dap your denizens.
Cross-gen pass. You know what cross-gen passes are, though. You've seen them before. They're coming every single update. It's this year's version of the Battle Pass, but now they're cross-gen passes, which I know I've said on 3 other shows. I get it, but you know, it's just to reinforce and remind that all of the skins in these passes are cross-gen. So that Smite 2 thing that we keep talking about and are infinitely hyped about and is available for pre-order on Monday, these are skins are going to have available for that. So, you know, hop in these alpha tests and have a little fun with these
patch
cool
is taking the wind out of me.
To talk about. So again, make sure to check out the pass. It will be launching
but it's okay.
on Tuesday with the update.
It's okay.
And it's going
There's
to
only a couple more months of Smite left.
You might have
only
seen
a couple more
already, although I'm not
if the
quite
first
sure
alpha
where.
is next month.
And that is
they probably do
Dapper
3 months of
Bacchus.
alpha, so
He's just such a
probably
goofy
May,
little
June,
guy.
July,
my goodness.
which means
Is that
probably August for
Honor
beta
cameo, little
launch.
set cameo
See a little
as
set
well.
over the
Probably
side?
August for beta
Dude,
launch.
he's so
24/7
dapper.
server.
My
He's
gosh.
so dapper.
Which is basically
Bacchus
what?
might have our biggest variety. of
4
weapons
more
in the
months
game.
of Smite.
Maybe the biggest variety of cat skins too.
Thank you, Vance.
Specifically.
He's got a bunch of them, yeah.
He really does have a lot of like animal style skins in general.
Yeah.
He's got the the bear skin, the cat skin. Those are the 2 that me popped to mind. I was trying to think of what other ones he had.
Well, there's 2 bears. There's the alive bear, the zombie bear.
True.
There's 2 different versions of the cat. Bacchus just makes for a nice cuddly animal.
Indeed, and this one is very fun. I like his little mustache.
Yeah, I like the tie clip that's also like a bell. So
Cute.
what an absolutely dapper gentleman. All right, so I believe that there it is. I was going to say I believe we get to see this in game, and yeah, that's Bacchus. All right.
And that tongue is just out all the time, it seems, as well.
Yeah, you don't see that
That's a
confident
shot.
stance in anybody but Bacchus.
Oh man, he's had a little bit too much of that catnip, you might say.
It's true. That's a catnip tea in the jar.
Oh,
actually.
very
Yeah.
fancy, very fancy. I like
Oh,
his
yeah.
little fish as well. Very cute.
His little fish. True. All right. Well, I'm a big fan of the dapper stuff, so I think that this is worth seeing in game. So I want to dive right into it.
Oh yeah.
Taking a bite already.
Bit of a snack.
just a mid fight snack.
Mid-fight snack.
Oh yeah, look at him go.
I love this. I want.
Oh, he throws the fish up.
Yeah, he-
Oh, that's
Hey,
so
throws
cool.
it again.
And back on. Dang.
Dang. Talented as well as dapper. Some guys
All
just
right.
have it all.
Oh yeah. It's time to
Kitty cat
party.
bar.
It's time to party. The
Oh my
cat
god, the
meow.
meow.
Yeah.
Look at the coin FX as well.
True.
That's so fun. Oh, on the hits as well, dude.
Got the riches, dude.
He does
He's
have
stealing your
quite a
money.
few
Not actually, but he's
cat-ish
stealing your money.
skins, doesn't he?
He's just so wealthy that every time you.
Oh, gotta chase him down.
I like how there's a pile of cash in the middle of the ult too, where you leave it.
Bye, Odin.
We will
He's taking a field trip.
Odin can't handle it.
Too much of his money.
He just got paid.
Well, Odin.
He just got paid to leave. But yeah, there's a little pile of cash.
Aw,
Coin
that's so
sound.
fun.
Too,
Yeah.
Dude, the like clinging
satisfying, yeah.
of the sound,
Yeah.
the coin shake, very nice. Oh, the
Oh,
laugh.
the laugh.
That's
Man,
so fun.
I used to own 2 top hats, and I could not find either of them to wear today, because I would have had one on my head right now. So, super fun, absolutely love it. Gonna have to go find where I can buy this suit, and gonna have to look at this in Smite 2 now. I think. Let's
Oh,
check
yes,
out the
please.
render.
Let's take a look. I love this pose.
Why do they go so hard with the poses for these? Like every time.
Dang.
Yeah, that is really cool.
That is excellent. Dude,
Look-
I can't wait to see what his wine looks like as well, or his tea, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, and shout out. I'm gonna pull a page from the Learn Me book here and shout out. Just look at the fur, like on the hands specifically. Like that's just
Yeah.
such well-defined fur. It's just absolutely gorgeous
The
looking.
fish has scales.
Yeah, even the scales
The
of the
fish has
fish, like
scales, I
all the
think.
way
Yeah.
down to that minute detail. It's so cool.
And how shiny we already talked about that, but I just absolutely 10 out of 10. Dapper gentleman cat.
Fish on the jug as well. I just noticed that now too.
Cute.
All right, so now we're moving on to the second skin that you will find in this wonderful cross-gen pass. And this one is our dear friend Vizier Egbert Beakington Raw.
Oh, yeah.
Another.
What a gentleman.
Another banger skin for Ra.
More
But this one might
cameos?
be the best one, honestly. I don't know, man. I know that Ra has some good laugh spams, but this one's got to be top tier.
This one
surely.
has to be top tier. And again, more cameos. We have Wukong and Fenrir in the back there.
Fenrir with a top hat.
With a top hat.
Oh, what a classic.
A refined gentleman.
Oh, and now Ra gets to be part of it too. Dude, that's so awesome.
I know. The more people that get accepted into the society of fine dining and whining is just soon. Good for me. Yeah, right?
I know we have enough for one full team, but we're getting close to being able to do, I think, 2 teams now.
We have to be.
That's awesome.
That's going to be the best world, honestly. That's the world. That's a Smite 2 world. A team where both teams can dress to the nines to duel. It's absolutely.
I might be getting Taco Bell tonight.
Me too. And
oh yeah, the little pipe as well.
It's gotta be it.
Quite right.
The monocle.
I need a little pick me up.
Oh man, I love this theme so much, and he really does look good in that little dapper suit. There's no better word.
Yeah, I wonder if any of our concept artists have ever like moonlighted as suit designers, because every time they release a character wearing a suit,
really good fit.
I'm like I would, that it's so drippy. I would
might need to get Baja Blast
to the finest event. I don't know, if I ever won the biggest prize imaginable, like whatever you can think of, I would wear that suit to that. So just saying, if y'all if y'all are trying to make some scratch on the stage, go design suits professionally. I can see this on the stage. I just absolutely.
How's the new cantina menu? Honestly, it was kind of disappointing.
I like the dapper thing. I already said that once. I had to say
the hard shell cantina taco was really good,
and they said yes,
and the rest was okay to schmack.
Let's check this one out.
Yeah,
and I love all Taco Bell. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you straight.
And his regalness.
It was too expensive.
A monocle on a big like bird eye like that is just something else.
Oh, I love it. All right, let's see those effects. I'm excited. Ooh.
All coins in there.
Yeah.
More coins.
Oh, they splash coins against
splash coins. That's so awesome. Imagine being wealthy enough.
Oh my gosh.
I love the way it sounds like it's dragging through a coin pile.
Clink, clink, clink. Love that.
There's some multicolor, and there's that buttons in there as well.
These are different gemstones.
Oh my god, gemstones.
Yeah.
Dude.
Dang.
Yes.
That is so awesome.
Give us a 3. Floating money. Everyone grab it.
Oh, it's like those games at the mall.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Gonna be standing there like, yes. I made $4.
Oh my goodness.
You imagine?
Right. Let's see that ultimate.
Yeah.
Boom.
You got the gems popping out too.
Explosion of
Oh, that's so cool.
Dude, I wanna also give a very special shout out to
what was that?
to our boy Mifflin. This was Mifflin's first ever official God character voice pack. Congratulations, Mifflin. And what a banger voice pack it is.
And we all know how refined he is. We saw him on the birthday stream with the art. He's a man who has defined quality for the better things in life. So it makes sense that he would write a skin pack for something so refined.
So refined.
That is simply devilish.
Devilish.
But it's wasted on you.
Oh, what a time.
Sure, God balance to get to, right?
To entertain.
What's the laugh? Hit me with the laugh.
Oh no.
No.
Oh no, it's so over.
What a harsh contrast between simply devilish and then that's so cursed.
That is a good laugh spam. I'm so excited.
That is all around 10 out of 10 banger. And you know that this is in Smite 2, and you know we're going to look at the render for Smite 2.
Yes,
so
please.
Let's check that out.
Yeah, baby.
Nope, all the gods are perfectly balanced.
I can't get over the laugh. That's going to be stuck in my head all day now.
That will definitely be in Smite.
Oh, man.
Just an extra level of detail. It always impresses me.
Yeah, I just like looking at them. But again, if you think looking at this is just one frame. This is a beautiful render, but it doesn't give justice to what it looks like alive. Like this is, renders are one of those things that I feel like you can, you're like, oh, it's a render. You can make it look prettier by staging it just right. But no, that's not how this works. You get these in game. You play like I've been able to play around with a few of them as we've done testing and stuff, and they really do just transfer into game looking just as beautiful as in this like professional headshot. So
yeah.
Especially we're talking about these last 2 skins that have all these coin effects. With the new lighting engine, imagine all just the reflections on the coins as they fly through the sky as well. Especially in Raz 3, it must look really, really cool.
And I can't even imagine the sounds too. Like imagine like through a corner you're hearing the jingles of a Ra.
Like a horror movie, actually. Yeah.
The jingles of a Ra. All right, well, cool. So this is the Dapper Denizen cross-gen pass. That'll be coming again next Tuesday with the 11.4 update. Get it and play through the pass. Buy it all at once if you feel like it. Completely up to you, but that will be available right around the corner. So now we're stepping back into the land of design and balance.
We are so back.
We are so back. So like last time, we're going to start off with just a little nerf. We have a nerf we want to talk about before we dive into some other stuff. So let's just get right into it then. Pele.
Yes, this is going to seem very weird.
Yes.
I understand completely. You're going to be like, Lermy, Pele, what do you mean? And I'm going to go, okay, I apologize in advance. We're not going to talk about why she's getting nerfed for a little bit, but this was just the best place to put the nerf. So Eruption is getting nerfed because, spoiler alert, we're doing a bit of a timing pass throughout the game.
Ooh,
and what's happening is that Eruption is going to be getting sped up quite a bit. So she is getting a bigger change than perhaps 90% of the gods in that timing pass. So she is getting a nerf in accordance with that. And we'll talk about that more when we get to that section. But again, I totally understand. This looks really weird, especially for those that are slamming the games all the time. And they're like, Pele's like, fine. Like, what are you talking about?
What are you doing?
With this change, she would definitely be a little bit too good. So we want to preemptively nerf her because we understand what's going to be adjusted is going to be a very big change for her.
What's coming up in this same patch really soon we'll talk about in a second.
Yes.
So let's just dive into the normal buffs now. So, stew on that. We'll get there in a second.
Stewing.
Let's talk about Izanami now, who's having some balance shift.
So this has been a very interesting back and forth with Miss Iza over the past year or so.
Yes.
We did a nerf to her that kind of took her out of the meta for a while, and then we did an adjustment coming into year 11 where everyone gets to lane at level 2. So she kind of lost her very
identity.
Special reason to kind of get picked when it comes to her early game clear. So what we're doing here is we're actually giving her a little bit more utility to kind of still let her have that identity, but not quite lean her into this incredible, super oppressive early game clear just as much, and give her a little bit more utility going into other spaces as well.
Yeah, she still has her early game clear. You can still play with that, but now you'll fight on that early game clear. When you've cleared the wave and the enemy hasn't, your fight will just be that little bit stronger, and that's what we're trying to focus on. And we've talked about risk versus reward a lot in this patch. The dash cooldown going down, you can actually get in there and dash out in the early game, and you get 2 seconds sooner for that dash to come back up.
Exactly. And this is also especially good if an Iza gets rolling as well for spectral projection change, because not only is that going up to 20% at the base, but let's say you're getting some kills in the early game, you get 2 of those bad boys, that's a 40% slow, which is kind of a little bit crazy. So we're definitely excited to see if those Izanamis can get rolling and get that spectral
projection. Imagine this is going to help
making enemies go rather slow.
That's right.
Cool. All right, so this next one, I have a weird feeling that you might be at least a little familiar with.
Yes, just a bit.
Just a hair. So we have Yu Huang getting some changes.
Yu Huang. Where do I start? So he is definitely a character that is rather challenging for people to play, mostly around the Dao management, because his abilities, when they're enhanced with his passive, are pretty solid. They're pretty chunky. They can hit hard. They get a little bit of extra, whether it's the knock-up damage pen, width on the ultimate. There's a lot of different things that you can get from using his passive well. But the problem is that it just takes such a long time to either let the passive charge up naturally or wait for Dao cultivation to actually get you back up to that point. So what we're doing is we're cutting the time it takes for him to get stacks of Dao from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. So that's cutting it in half again. It originally was 12 seconds. So just a little note there that it needed to go down by this much. But it's going to feel a lot better because you're going to more consistently have your Dao up to get those enhanced abilities and have more instances that you're going to be like, yep, that felt really good.
Yeah, that felt good.
But that's not it. We got more things to talk about because Flames of the Phoenix is his one. It tends to be that this ability has not been keeping up with the rest of the kind of people in his class when we were comparing his damage numbers to other average mages and other meta mages. He was way far behind the meta mages, and he was slightly under average. So we're giving him a couple of touch-ups to Flames of the Phoenix and Dao cultivation here and there across the multiple stages of his abilities, because of course Flames of the Phoenix has the cross damage, and then it's got the field damage, then it's got the burn. There's a lot of parts to Yu Huang as well, so you can tell it gets split up a lot. So even though this damage increase doesn't look like a lot, it's going to feel like it between Flames of the Phoenix and Dao cultivation, which is on the next lower third here, which is getting some increased scaling as well. Going to feel a lot better towards the late game.
That's right. It would just hopefully bring him into the mage meta, because I think the mage meta has been, I don't want to say stale, but it's kind of been the same way for a couple months now, and Yu Huang has not been a part of that mage meta. So if we can bring him in a little bit, just a little bit of variety into the lane.
Little buffs will help him.
A little variety. And,
Conduit gem nerf,
one of
though,
your
does hurt.
gods getting that little.
It is nice. It's hard to say no when Max says, yeah, Yu Huang's bad, and I go, so we can buff him?
Yeah, we can buff him, please. All right, so now to move away from the mages a little bit and into a wild swinging guardian, we have Maui.
Yeah, Maui, another moderately recent character, you might say. Another first for our designers with Agra, who is not here with us today. But shout out to the boy.
Shout out to Agra.
We're giving Maui a couple of nice, decent, like, quality of life-esque buffs. These are not like the craziest things in the world. But it will feel rather nice to get a little bit of extra swings going on, especially towards the late game. You're going to feel your ability to pull a little bit faster off of your passive is going to be a lot nicer, especially with that faster attack speed. It's just going to be a more, what's the word, like flowy series of events to be able to hit the mark and then yoink again.
Yeah, and his early game clear will get increased as well, but it is scaling, so it'll be more noticeable in the late game, but it just allows him to dip deeper into those like piercing auto attacks, and that'll help. And then obviously being able to stun for 1.5 seconds at level 1, you might want to start this ability and get in there and fight as soon as possible. Or in Conquest level 2, you can have it and jump on that first wave for the big stun, and then it's going to feel so much better being able to jump a lot late game with that mana reduction. That is actually a pretty big deal, going from 90 to 60 mana when you're a support that doesn't really have many mana items. You're going to be able to use that ability much more often.
Yeah, I think the important thing too is that it was always really tough as the Maui player to know what you're supposed to level, because you could level, Solar Swing for the CC, you could do the Mystical Alua for the extra protections and things of that nature and the cooldown. So now it's just going to be a little bit simpler to say, okay, I've got my stun duration, I don't have to worry about that. I can actually level my clear, I can level my utility, and I don't have to worry about my leap as much.
Yeah, same with the mana cost, that's right.
Cool. Well, hey, I like Maui changes because Maui's just fun to play in general. Such a vibrant character. I don't know. I've always enjoyed the voice packs, like base skin, since it came out. But anyway, we're moving from the sea to the stables because we got to talk Lancelot. What's going on with Lancelot?
Lancelot, yes, he has not been showing up a lot, and quite, you might want to be calling him Lance a little here, but we're doing a couple small changes, kind of across Lancelot's kit.
Buffing Lancelot is always
this is his passive.
Scary game.
Essentially, this is stacking up on minion kills and various other, requirements. He's going on a quest to fill up his stacks.
That's right.
But it actually was, to get one stack, you have to kill a certain amount of minions beyond one. It's not just one.
That made it easier to stack
it. So 60 was actually turning out to be closer to like 300 minions, which is a lot of minions, especially as a jungler, when you kind of want to balance going between the jungle and fighting and lanes and ganking and doing all these things. You're just not getting this passive
I don't feel like Lancelot is bad right now at all. I actually feel like he's pretty good. And I feel like he's also one of the more frustrating characters in the game with the way that his horse works. And buffing frustrating characters is always ill-advised.
To shift the movement speed and the basic attack damage reduction up. This is not changing the final amount that you're getting. It is just ending up at the same amount, just shifting how much you get per stack.
Yeah, a little sooner.
Exactly. But that's not all. We've got more. Skilled Strikes. This is his 2. This is the knockback. So this is getting increased shield damage. This is the up close and personal bump that he's doing out back into the Lance Slash.
Yeah.
So
now they lost
the reason that we picked this one and the flat damage as well is because you kind of have
Before
to
it was
be
like a buff and a quality of life. This is like a straight buff
to the combat if you're going to be hitting this initial attack.
Yeah.
So we want to again kind of encourage people to really play around that mechanic of getting the initial hit into the sweet spot bonus damage, and this is just a way to kind of incentivize him to do that a little bit more, to start with that and not just go for the poke.
Yeah.
And then finally, quick turn. This is when he's on his horse. Just a little bit.
Hey, you know what? That quick turn change, that's totally fine.
Walk up to someone, or rather, I guess
no problems at all with the quick turn change. Let that man turn around.
4 seconds.
Yeah, especially as an assassin, you're kind of going in and out of fights a lot.
Let him turn.
Going in and out of a fight, it was just like this really long U-turn, and it was like, oh, this is kind of weird when your quick turn was down. But now with it a 2-second cooldown, you can kind of U-turn and U-turn back if you need to go in and out, and then eventually make your choice and decide to go all in, get up and close, and hit that shield damage, and feel a lot better as a character altogether.
Nice. Hey, before we move on, I just got to flex a little bit because, I already got the achievement for the passive. So that was a really long game, though. You were like you were saying all that.
That,
I was
that would take a while.
I feel it because I told my team, I was like, guys, I'm gunning for this. You got me, right? And they did.
That's your whole game.
It took a concerted effort. All right, so we don't have to leave the castle for this next one. We're staying in the same place and talking King Arthur now.
Yeah, from the Knight to the King. This one is pretty exciting.
Pretty cool.
I've got to say. King Arthur, his basic attacks previously did not proc basic attack items. There were no, Bumbas to be had.
Mannequins, no guest hole.
And guess what? Now you can.
Anything you want. You can run King Arthur jungle, go Boomba's dagger. You can get Boomba's hammer in the end. I can't imagine that. Use an ability, Boomba's hammer, quicker cooldowns. You're just going to be spamming your abilities constantly on King Arthur jungle if you want to do that. Or, you can go Death Hole if you need sustain in the solo lane instead of...
We had a playtest with the King Arthur jungle, actually. Shout out Mwek for that one. That was a very fun game. I had a very interesting jungle battle against the jungle King Arthur with proc items.
That's cool, though.
That's mostly a meme.
Very, very fun.
Right.
But
yeah, nice. Another fun
Arch Druid's Fury would be nice.
All right, so
Arch Druid's Fury would be nice to, weave in.
Jade Rabbit does quite a lot of things, so we're going to be doing a little bit to every aspect of this passive. So first things first, the Rabbit movement speed is now being increased from 3.5 times Chang'e's movement speed to 5 times Chang'e's movement speed. So the bunny,
Chang'e actually needs this buff because they literally gave everybody a Chang'e passive.
Springtime, or I guess it is springtime.
With the store camp.
Crazy how time flies. But now this bunny is going hyper speed, so that's going to feel really nice. Up next, though,
he'll be able to proc Golden Shard. Arthur will be able to use Golden Shard. That's actually going to be super dumb.
This is part of her passive.
No.
That you get a little bit of extra movement.
There it is. That's the one.
25% to 40%.
Bluestone plus Golden Shard is going to be unbearable clear.
So you're not
yep,
keeping
there
it
it is.
for a very long amount of time.
There it is. You found it.
For the longer dances, like her 2, I think is her longest dance, that'll feel like a bit more like a kind of a dash almost, because you're getting such a big boost in movement speed, and if you just hold that one direction key, you're going to go forward or whatever direction you're going a decent amount. So it makes her a lot more mobile, and she is a generally pretty immobile mage. Gets stuck on walls and things like that.
That's actually
so she still has that downside, but this will make it so that she can rotate faster if you are able to spam your abilities. You can sit on the edge of a team fight easier because you can kind of go in and out with your abilities. So all in all, just a straight buff, and if you didn't know that it gave movement speed before, you will feel it now.
Yeah, you will know now.
And finally, she has this third aspect to her passive where every ability that she hits that does damage to an enemy leaves a debuff on them that increases the damage that they take. This debuff previously lasted 4 seconds, just going up to 5 seconds, a little bit more consistency for Chang'e to be able to keep a high stack count, especially because she has to kind of go between her 2 dances that do damage, or if she's comboing into her third one, it just gives her a little bit of extra help in case she's not using her ultimate at every situation.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah, got it. So all around just a sprinkle of little additions. Nice. So we're moving on, keeping going. Heimdall up next.
Yes, Heimdall. This is a fun one, you might say.
A fun
So
one.
Previously, Heimdall would throw the sword straight into the air during Piercing Sight. He would just throw it up. Now, instead, Heimdall throws it slightly in front of him. 55 units. That's an entire basic attack in front of him. Okay. This effectively does not change very much in terms of where, the sword actually goes down, because that is just completely unrelated. But what this does do is it allows you to now kind of use it more as a vision tool, which it has given vision before. It's just not something that many people play around. So now it's a little bit easier to actually use it kind of as this extra tool. Throw it in the jungle, throw it over a wall, whatever you might want to do to actually go and check, is this camp up? Am I getting ganked? I can
That's a
leave this
fun
here for
quality
8
of
seconds,
life.
So it's a little bit more another tool in the toolbox without having to fully commit to putting himself in the spot where you'd want to place this. So that's number 1 for this ability. Number 2 is that Heimdall's sword now has a consistent landing time no matter how far away the sword is. So this is kind of a buff and a nerf a little bit. It just makes it very consistent. So now instead of, you're sitting there and waiting and waiting and waiting if the sword is very far away to actually catch up to you, it'll always get there at the same time. But that also means that it's going to be very predictable for enemies too, that when they see the sword coming down, you know exactly when you need to get away from it and not have to worry too much about, I don't know how far away the sword was. The second you see that warning, you are out of there no matter how far away that sword is.
That's right. And it was kind of a necessary change as well. When we're putting the sword at an extra length in front of you, it was changing the amount of time that it took for it to come back down. So now, with it being a consistent time, it's really easy to time off of your ult or your knock up from your 2. And as well, yes, it is easier for enemies to understand that timing, but all around, just more intuitive.
Yes, just going to be very intuitive. And speaking of intuitive, we are doing a change to how this ability functions with targeters to make it a little bit nicer for our quick cast and instant cast users. So on quick cast, normally, when you're usually casting this ability, you would press it and then the targeter would show up and sit there, so you'd need to right click it to make it go away. If you wanted to get back to basic attacking, using your 2, anything else that you wanted to do, you'd have to right-click it. And that was just kind of a bit of a pain to have to do every single time. I mean, this is like your clear ability, other than, you know, using your portals for that if you're super cracked at Heimdall. But now in Quick Cast, you will no longer see the targeter when you initially cast the ability. If you hold down the button that you use to cast the one, you'll still see the targeter. But it will not stay up the whole time. You won't need to right-click. Same deal with Instant Cast, except the targeter will just never show up. So personally for me, I'm a Quick Cast user for this ability in particular. But again, if you use Instant Cast, I'm not going to judge you. Normal Cast, by all means, if you need to see the targeter, look at the targeter. Because clearly, it does help.
So now it's more intuitive with each type of the casting type.
Exactly.
So if you like Instant Cast, you'll like this change. If you like Quick Cast, you'll like this change. If you like Normal Cast, you won't see a change, and there you go. Everybody wins.
It just lets you get back to the action a little bit faster.
Yep.
Nice. Everybody wins. Gotta love an everybody wins situation. Those are always the best.
I don't feel like a winner today. High res.
This particular block of balance. There's some more coming up. Is Surtur. So Surtur. This one looks kind of crazy a little bit.
Remember how we talked a little bit about
up on the screen like that?
We're showing it, gosh.
There it is. Let them read it.
You guys want to read that real quick? I'll give you a second.
Just that first line,
Yeah. We'll have a quiet reading time.
The 200 to 999 doesn't matter.
Ready to go? Okay, let's go. Flames of the Moose Bowl. This is just 1. Previously, the stacks went
the
up
1
to 200.
to 2
now
stacks
they go to
is like
and you may be going,
a little relevant. For stacking on him.
How am I supposed to get to 999 when I get a stack off of killing a minion, and that's killing a thing? Well, now you get
really,
stacks in a lot
it's
of
more
ways.
the idea.
First off, you get 1 stack when hitting
Surtur
an enemy
is
non-god. So
maybe
minions,
the best
anything that you're hitting
1 through 5 clear god in solo lane.
Yes, you have to have your 1 active.
Got a bomb.
But you get 2 stacks if you kill an enemy non-god, so you can hit them.
Even if he's not crazy meta right now, his early game is so strong, and they just did a bunch of stuff to increase early snowball. So it's just like
hit them, and they die to the initial hit. Then you still get the 2 stacks. So that's 3 between the hit and then the kill. But there's more. Surtur also gains additional stacks, so now we're at 3. When you hit an enemy god, so you get that same exact reward that it would be from hitting and killing a non-god, just from hitting an enemy god. So you can kind of pick and choose, you know, do I want to use this on the wave and have to do a little bit more of like micromanaging to actually be there and like make sure it dies to the burn, or I could just go up and smack my lane and get it. So you can make that choice. And you also get a little bit of an extra bonus here too when you kill an enemy god with the burn active of 5 stacks. So that always feels really nice when you're like, yes, I got a burn kill. Love that. Feels so fun.
This is another one of those. I want to see who gets 999 first. I want to see these solo lane streamers.
I'm calling fine. Okay, I'm calling shot. Where are you guys at?
I want to see them all. It's still going to take a long time. But the important thing is it's going to take a lot of action, and I think that's the really fun part. The damage will work out to be about the same, but it'll be a lot more consistent in the amount of stacks that you're getting.
There seems like a lot of time and effort to put into one ability that basically works exactly the same way.
Just kind of last hitting minions for.
Like, am I dumb?
40 minutes.
Yeah.
Or was this literally somebody's job for a week to do this
for that amount of time?
When they could have been doing anything else.
It was cool to see people race to 200. I mean, it took a while for somebody to actually be able to hit that for the first time. And I think it'll take a while for 999 as well.
I guess.
But throughout that time, they're going to be putting themselves in much more risky situations because they want to go in there and get in the actions. If they want to just hit minions, it's going to take forever. If they want to hit gods, it'll actually go really fast.
It is more spammy now for sure.
Rotate around, get into fights, and get that 999, and then just start hammering people with your 1.
Yes, it is going to be actually very nice for the Surtur player as well, because previously it was 5 damage per stack that you were getting on top of that. Now it's 1. So actually the very convenient thing about that is your passive meter will show the number, and that number is completely equal to the amount of damage that you're doing.
It's that plus 35.
35 at this point. So it's very nice to kind of have that like instant, like I can look and see how much damage this is going to do in an instant, which has been very, very nice to have as the Surtur player. And we've been having a lot of fun doing our stack checks and our play tests.
It is funny when you put it that way as well, because there is somebody out there that's going to see the number 999 on their screen, and yes, that is the amount of damage you're doing. Plus 35. You're doing over 1,000 damage with 1 hit of a basic attack, and it's magical damage, so who knows what kind of protections they'll have up against you as a physical god. So go ahead, see if you can hit somebody for half of their health bar.
Let's see. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun change to play with.
It's actually going to make him more of a lane bully, because he's going to pop his 3 and his 1, and he's going to run at you, and he doesn't have to worry about stacking anymore.
Surtur, so it makes sense.
So theoretically, that should make him an even worse lane bully.
Another section of balance that it's more a little quality of life. So it's changes that, I guess quality of life is just the best way to say it. And we're starting with the newest addition to our cast, Newt.
Yes, so when Newt released, we saw a lot of discussion about convergence. This is the ability that she spawns as like her kind of basic attack sim, and she has the extra orbs that come together in a nice little cone. One thing that players did mention was that they weren't able to cancel this ability while they were firing it, kind of similarly to how
that
you
was actually a massive
other
problem.
people that have these cancelable stims like Hachiman.
It actually made her feel really bad.
You are now able to cancel convergence in that same way while you're shooting.
Nice.
You still get your ammo refunded if you have anything left over, so that's going to feel nice. But yeah, you can put it on cooldown basically whenever you want now, and not have to worry about stopping your left clicking to actually turn it off.
Cool, nice and easy, nice and clean. Love
it's
it.
actually
so
pronounced.
Now we're moving on to Cupid, sharing the love, but a little. Yeah.
So this is actually a very fun one as well because
that's how you
previously the hearts used to be like roughly like 40 units
pretty far away
apart, pretty far apart. So it made it a little bit difficult for players to really kind of want to go and get multiple of them, or if they were, it was kind of a commitment to really like.
You have to like put it up against the wall, which is normally not ideal.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of this extra kind of very specific thought about how I'm going to be putting down these hearts, which for a hunter, you don't want to be spending all that time thinking about where you're placing those bad boys. So the space between the hearts is going down by quite a bit. It's going from 40 units to 25 units between the hearts. So it's shrinking quite significantly. But the fun part about this is we unfortunately don't have a visual for you right now, but the way that it actually lines up makes it really nice because now you're able to kind of dash through them yourself.
Yeah.
So if you line it up so that the triangle is kind of right in front of you, you're able to kind of tilt to the left or to the right a little bit and just zip through two of them. It feels really, really nice as the Cupid player to be able to do that for yourself or even for an ally.
I think we learned this morning that Cupid's pretty OP. So.
Exactly, yeah, and it was even tough in like game modes like Assault. Like you would put it somewhere in the middle of the map, and that furthest one forward, because it was such a big distance, would bounce all the way towards the enemy, and you couldn't even pick it up. But now they're more likely to go right where you're placing them. And yeah, I really like the whole put it in front of you, do a little bit of a sidestep, if that, and just angle your camera, and you can just dash through two of them. And just that sound of picking up two hearts along the way of your dash, very satisfying.
Very, very fun.
Very satisfying. Well, cool. It might just be because it was Cupid, but I do love that change. I love that change. And so now we have Kabrakan coming up next, and his shield is getting a little tweak.
Yeah, refraction shield. So previously, well, I guess I say previously. It's been ever since Kabrakan has been released, which, God, that's been a long time.
Talk about it. It's going to hurt.
Refraction shield has a passive component where every time that you get hit, you get extra protections. It would last for a set amount of time, and then it would go off. But the problem with that is that refraction shield only stuns if you have that full protection stack up. So even if you're still in combat, you could lose this like ability to stun with refraction shield, and that would feel pretty bad to where you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing as a tank. You're tanking for a long time as well, and you're taking the damage the whole time, and then you lose your stun and your protections, not to mention.
Exactly, yeah.
Kabrakan's annoying, but surprisingly not meta right now.
Protections as long as he's still taking damage. The timer that ticks down,
and with the conduit nerf change, probably even less likely
you stop taking damage.
That's right. Yeah, as long as you keep taking damage, those stacks will continue to refresh. You'll stay at max stacks. You can use your stun when you want to. You can hold on to the protections. You can do either, but as long as you're still taking damage, you'll hold on to the stacks. You don't have to worry about your stacks falling off anymore and being rushed into using your 2 or having to get out of the fight because your stacks are going to fall off. Like, this was a big deal in like Kabrakan's laning phase in solo. You would just take such an extreme amount of damage as soon as those stacks fell off, because generally he builds a kind of a higher damage build, and your protections were coming from that too. And then as soon as those were gone, you felt like a squishy character all of a sudden. And it wasn't fun having to battle your own passive stacks. Now you can kind of keep them, and you can stun somebody as long as you have a minion hitting you, or as long as you have the enemy god hitting you, you will have your stun most of the time.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Love to hear that for Kabrakan. It reminds me of one of my old sayings. If Hercules is getting 2 quality of life changes, Ro would be the one to talk about them. My grandma used to say that all the time. So anyway, Ro, how about Hercules, huh?
Yeah, so I spoiled the second part of this on Twitter already, so you can check that out if you want to, but we're going to talk about it in a moment. But just the general feel good. We've done things similar for, like Agni being able to move with his bomb.
Ymir got a camera unlock.
Yeah, Ymir's camera unlock. Cthulhu being able to use his
he
too.
can
So
aim the boulder all the way down, so it's going to be way easier to hit boulder.
Positive is buff, so I understand these are buffs as well, but they're smaller buffs. They shouldn't matter too much. And again, if Hercules somehow had a resurgence into the meta and became very strong, we can hit him elsewhere in the nerfs. But what we're really focusing on here is the feel. So the unlocking of the camera is going to feel really good. It just allows you to see more around you while you're doing things. It's not going to make the aim really any different. It's just going to feel better. And this is one that's hard to show. You kind of just have to get in there and play it yourself. And the PTS will be live after this show, so you can feel it then, or you can wait until next Tuesday when it's out.
Yep.
But the big one, Excavate, this is a fun one. So before Hercules he's a strong god, right? And it felt really impactful when you would start your ultimate and you're forced to stop moving because you're pulling this massive amount of ground out of the floor, I guess. And yeah, you feel strong, but then all of a sudden you're just locked and you're not strong anymore. We've unlocked him, so he now can rotate, he can move his camera around and aim that elsewhere. So it just feels like he has this added strength of being able to just yeet this rock wherever you want, and you can flick it wherever you want. His old ultimate, or it's the same ultimate, but the way it used to work had added problems as well.
Much stronger guarantee
someone up
on hitting the ulti.
You couldn't actually throw the boulder against the wall because it comes out a bit ahead of you. That's not the case anymore. Now the targeter, if you're up against the wall, can be all the way up down to your feet, so you can literally just throw the boulder at your feet. So no matter how much space there is between you and the enemy god,
you can hit them.
If they're running circles around you, you can turn in circles around them as well. Or you can just make these YouTube videos, hit those 360 no scopes. Another thing I want to see 99 stacks on Stormseeker, I want to see 99 Surtur, and then I want to see a 360 no scope Hercules boulder.
Montage.
You just came with the challenges today.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa,
I want to get tweeted at one of these videos. That'll be great. So yeah,
that would be great.
This is it's one that's harder to explain, but trust me, it feels better. If you're worried about balance concerns, don't worry, we can take care of that. Yeah.
And that's not even to mention the change to Earthbreaker too. This is such a fundamental feels good that I can't even explain how good this feels, because previously when you used Earthbreaker, it's the ability that you would stomp down, the ground would come up, and then they'd start flying towards you, and usually you wouldn't do a big 180 to be able to push them back into your team.
Really fast.
But you have to flick so fast because your camera's locked this whole time. Now that it's unlocked, oh my god, I feel like they're up in the air forever. I understand now from the other end of getting tossed around by Hercules, and you're like, huh, okay, where are they at? Oh, there they are, and you're 100% ready every single time, it feels like. So it feels like unlocks his potential so much.
Yeah, it felt like before when I played Hercules, I'd have to pull them and then flick my camera, and no matter what, I was always flicking like 180 degrees. Because I had to just do it so fast. Now you can kind of turn around and you can kind of intentionally aim where you want to.
Should have been sitting 2 hours ago, but
you don't have to guess either, which is nice.
There you go.
Really, like feel out.
You're getting patch notes and you're gonna like it.
They're coming. Okay, now I'm ready. Whereas before you'd kind of have to like do it so fast that you're like, I just gotta pray that they're actually coming.
Yeah. So we're just adding a lot of fluidity to his kit, and to make him feel a lot better in that regard. So get in and play him and let us know how it feels.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about all these quality of life changes is they're very specific.
The patch notes do feel like they are taking longer and longer, even though there's not necessarily more stuff in them.
So
feels like they just spend a lot longer talking about each individual aspect, so it just takes a minute.
So this is a very similar vein to Heimdall's adjustment, where this is specifically only for quick and instant cast, and this is if you opt into those anyway. On quick cast, the targeter will not show up unless you refire the ability. So again, if you
kind of feel like right here,
bad boy, it's just automatically
Achilles
for you. You can go back to
we did to his targeters the same thing we did earlier.
It's going to be there.
Remember we talked about earlier? Same thing.
Again, you can.
Next one.
Instant cast, the targeter will never show up, so you just push the button again and it fires. Again, me personally, this is an instant cast ability for me, so it's just going to feel so nice to not have to worry about micromanaging this right-clicking that I have to do, or maybe getting stuck in it and dashing when I don't mean to dash. It's just going to feel very, very nice to be able to do all of these things that kind of unlocks this potential for players.
The easiest one to explain this one as well is if people play Susano on this quick cast or instant cast, it's the same as this one.
Yep.
It's just bringing that in lane, Nemesis dash,
Lancelot, all these characters that have these kind of abilities that bring up multiple stages of targeters, it feels the exact same.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, like I said before, instant cast are going to get what they want. Quick casters are going to get what they want, and then normal cast will be just the same.
Nice, awesome. Well, that's the end of that. And like you said, what a fun.
That was almost verbatim what they said about the other time they talked
about. This exact phrase was used several times, bringing out the potential of
the exact phrase was
some of them that have already been.
We're actually on the same page.
People have honed certain things to perfection. Like there are definitely Hercules players out there who have honed that craft of the knock up, the push, the ult. But now it's adding an additional layer. You can get back in and kind of push beyond what was there originally and learn how to reutilize these. Just I don't know, it's always fun to see this kind of stuff because, like you said, there's more potential for people to get in and utilize their skill expression.
Did we do it? Did we beat the patch notes
from 100% to 110%?
Did we beat them?
So excited to see a lot of that. So this next section here is, I'm going to set y'all up for this before I pass it over to them. We have one more design section to talk about. And it's similar to some stuff you saw last time. Last update, we did some timing passes. We went back and adjusted some things, and we had some examples for y'all of some of the more dramatic ones. We had
this section, I actually do feel like
her one, I think,
is probably the most relevant section.
And we took feedback from
because these changes should theoretically
and we're like
transfer over to Smite 2.
We like taking this timing in, even if the adjustment is a fraction of a second or whatever. Like it makes
should theoretically change over to Smite 2.
Specifically feel,
which I presume is why they're doing them.
And so they went crazy with it. I'm about to let them talk through it because they know what they really did. They have all the specs. But I just want to let y'all know, like, I've been watching from the outside. Like I said, I'm on the other side of the glass, and they're working with the pans, and they're chefing back there, and they're cooking in the kitchen, and they have created a lot of heat. So what did y'all do for the timing pass for this update?
Phew. All right. Okay. So let's just start at the beginning here.
Dive in.
We reviewed every single ability and passive in the game.
That's a lot.
And there's 130 gods, so that's a lot. All right. So let's start there. That's a lot. At the end of the day, we have adjusted 103 abilities across 72 gods.
Also,
this is actually
god got adjusted. Yes, true.
This is actually
we did evaluate all of them. We are still going to be on the lookout to make sure that these abilities are feeling great. There's no weird bugginess going on with them because, of course, that's a lot of changes. You never know in certain situations, especially when you account lag into them, where things might go. But we feel very confident that this is going to increase the fidelity of the game, and you're going to feel the responsiveness just go up by a ton across the board. So what is actually changing here? I kind of explained this last time, but to break it down a little bit more of a technical level, there is a time period before your ability actually activates, where you, as the character, start animating. This is called a pre-fire. So your ability has not yet come out, but you are animating to show that I'm about to attack. And then there's some time after that's kind of like the wind down of the ability, where you are still animating, but the attack has come out. That is called the post-fire. Essentially what we have done is taken time out of the pre-fire before the ability comes out and put it into the post-fire. So the abilities are still going to be animating and like leaving you in the animations for the exact same amount of time. The animations have not changed. It is just when does the actual ability fire that is now better in line with the art, and especially going to be very feasible to observe them on higher ping as well.
Yes.
So you can really notice a difference when these abilities are going to be better in line with your animations, is the TLDR of that. A lot of these adjustments are under a 1/10 of a second, and believe me when I say, if it's a 1/10 of a second, and a 1/10 of a second change is huge. Like, let me tell you, most of these are like 0.005. Like, it is a very small adjustment. But they feel very big. Like, as someone who plays a lot of various characters, like I was talking with Snoopy the other day, and Snoopy was like, "Hey man, can you look at Baron?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take a look at Baron." And what do you know? Life of the party, right on up there. Did need some adjustments. Was not quite matching the animation perfectly. Yeah. So what is happening with Baron specifically, to kind of illustrate, is that when Baron goes into his ultimate, he kind of hops in the coffin. Now the actual pull into the coffin starts a little bit sooner. It starts when he visually is sitting on his coffin. Okay. And it's the same idea for all of these other characters. When they are shooting their projectiles, or they're doing their abilities that are originating from them, from their animations, it's going to match just so much better, feel much more succinct, much more, in the flow. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's just so many abilities that we just can't show all of them.
Please do not talk about all of them.
They're fully listed in the past notes. And again, the reason that we nerfed Pele is because she was getting a very, very big adjustment here to Eruption. And so Eruption essentially previously
strong knock-up ability. Yeah.
It's a very strong knock-up ability, and it's still going to do exactly that same thing. But the reason that we nerfed her is because previously you would have to go all the way up and all the way down,
and then it would,
start firing. Now the adjustment for Pele is that she comes down And when she has that impact on the ground, oh my god, it feels so good, you guys. I can't even really explain. She comes down and then the knockup happens.
Yeah.
It really feels like this shift in weight that makes this
these
ability
changes
for Pele specifically feel so much more
I feel like
but that is like probably the biggest change that we did throughout the patch was that
these
time
changes
adjustment. That's like on the
are the most
end
relevant
of
for
the
Smite
timing
2
changes. Most of the
because
other
these
changes,
all
like I
feel
said,
like to me,
fractions of
okay
seconds.
guys,
It's
before
going to
we
be a
transfer
little difficult to
characters
notice, and
over,
again,
it
these
would
should
be
be
nice
very
if they
small
felt a little bit
adjustments that
better
are
in Smite
barely
1,
perceptible to
so when we
enemies,
transfer
but as the
over as
person
much as
playing
we
it,
can,
we're going to feel it, and it's
we've
gonna
got
be
a better
great.
base to be working with. It is in fact 10 years too late to be doing this for Smite, but it is in fact just in time to be doing it for Smite 2.
For sure.
So we hope that feels a lot better just on its own. But realistically, if you don't play a god very often that's had these changes, and if it's a god that has a change on the smaller end, then you might not even notice it yourself. When you're up against enemies, you're probably not going to notice it at all unless you're paying a lot of attention. But for the main gods you play or the gods you have more experience with, I think you're going to feel the reduced input lag on a lot of these abilities. Now, there's a long list of them, so we're not going to go through them. But yeah, we just hope that it increases the feel and really just the animations and the effects all match up with the damage numbers showing at the right time.
Yeah.
It all syncs up together, and it just makes it more intuitive, and everything feels just how it should be. It feels like this is always the way it should have been.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, the cool thing about this to me is the difference between the word feel and the word notice. Because, you know, there are people that play a lot more Smite than I do. And if I hopped in and played some of these changes, I might not notice them, but I will feel them. And, like, I'll be like, wow, these abilities are really clean to cats. Like, I might not be able to say, oh, they cleaned that up, that's a lot better, because I just don't play enough. But even as somebody who doesn't
zero
play
faith in the
as
Smite
much,
2 dev team.
I feel
Well,
like I'll, you know,
you don't
there's
have
still
to,
something you'll feel. You'll say, wow, this ability
you don't have to
feels
wait very
really
long.
clean, even if I don't recognize why.
This
I mean,
upcoming
obviously, I guess I
Monday,
know
you'll be
these
able to
changes, so it'd
buy
be easier
access
for
to
me.
the alpha
But a
through our
newer player
Nexus
would
store.
just say, man, this just feels really
And
clean. It's doing
next
exactly
month,
what I
you'll be
expected
able to
and that's awesome
play
feeling.
Smite 2.
But if you're a more veteran player, you have the benefit of noticing them.
The
as
wait
well.
is
You're like,
almost
this
over
feels
for
better,
the alpha.
and I know why.
Not for
I
the
can see what
24/7
they were
servers
talking
and not for
about.
the
And
free
even
to
though,
play.
like you said,
But for the
it's not
alpha,
like
wait's almost
it's
over.
particularly a buff for some people. For some it is, but for some, you know, the enemy is not noticing that much of a difference. But you are able to time these things so much better with the visuals you have. That's just, it's so crazy. And to say that you've done that 103 times across.
I mean, that was not the only time. We had more experiments that we tried, right? So again, every single ability was hand observed, hand adjusted to see, you know, if we could make these adjustments. And unfortunately for a lot of them, or rather fortunately, I guess you might say, for the majority of abilities, they were good. They were chilling. Everything was looking good. And we also didn't make any adjustments on the other end of things as well. If things were coming out early per se, before the animation actually looked like it was going to fire, we didn't adjust those because that would be an unnecessary nerf, and unnecessary feels bad, and it would be slowing the game down, which we don't want to do. We want to make sure that everyone's still either feeling exactly
believe me,
the same
we know you want to speed the game up. That was the one thing I got from this patch.
Abilities that were coming out early.
They want it to be faster.
I can think of off the top
Chop,
of my
chop.
head is Giannis too. He's not even like crossing his hands before it comes out, but we were talking about this a lot, and we were like, do we adjust
in and out of your conquest games? 10 minutes, folks. 10 minutes. Cycle through. Cycle through.
Slower. We want them to feel responsive. We want them to feel fluid, and we hope that this adjustment does it.
Yeah, just like the Smite 2 mantra. It's just strictly better. Like, y'all aren't just making changes for the fun of it. Haha. It's you're looking at it.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's a week of my life that I put into that.
I was wondering why when I walked by your desk, I saw you with a magnifying glass at the computer, and then like an hour later, you were still there.
I was watching things at slow-mo for hours and making sure that every minute detail was right, and we had a lot of QA help as well to be able to check through these abilities to make sure they were feeling right, not breaking animation. So huge thank you to the QA team as well, helping us out with this process, and we couldn't have done it without you. So again, we hope that all of these changes are going to be feeling great for all of you guys that really recognize the difference here. And to your enemies, it'll probably feel about the same.
Yeah, except for the fact that, you know, you have the confidence of nailing it better now because you're like, wow, this is okay, well, that's cool. And again, you can see those on the patch notes. There's a huge list of them, and it just goes over what's been changed. It doesn't really cover the timing because, again, all of the timings are so minute. We were like, why would we put that on there? Like,
it's just not something that's really perceptible. You know what I mean? Like, you don't register in your mind that like Giannis 2 comes out at I'm making a number. It comes out at after 0.3 seconds. Like, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. It's all intuition.
But everything is listed there, so you can go through and read it, and, you know, see if your favorite god managed to get, you know, a little tweak. You can go try out that ability and, you know, tell us how you feel about it. So, because again, we're always looking for that feedback. We're always looking to hear what y'all have to say. But wowzer, I think we did. I think we made it through the show.
Guys, we did it. We win.
11.4. in an update show nutshell, in a beautiful package with a ribbon on it. So thank y'all for hanging out. That was a lot of stuff. Thank you for all your hard work. And thank y'all for coming out and watching. Again, to kind of jump back to the beginning of the show.
Not a fan of this patch on a great many level. I do love the thing that they did at the end. Animation passes to make things feel better. Big fan of that. That's fantastic, not only for Smite, but most importantly for Smite 2. I do love that the alpha is purchasable starting Monday, and I love that we're going to get first looks for everybody, for the community in May at some point. Those alpha tests will be streamable, content creatable. So when that goes live in May, I'm going to play as much as I can, humanly possible, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in order to show you guys off Smite 2 and also to hopefully get a bunch of Smite 2 content for YouTube. So I'm kind of hoping, I don't know if it's going to be feasible, but I'm kind of hoping to switch over the main channel to basically being strictly Smite 2 content, starting with the first alpha, and I'm hoping to get enough content to last me to the second alpha, to last me to the third alpha, to last me to the beta kind of thing. I would love to just make the YouTube channel Smite 2 basically 90 days, before it's 24/7 playable. I think would be pretty dope. But as far as the conquest changes, adding more snowball to the game, I could understand it from like maybe a casual point of view. Like sometimes in my casual games, when I do them for funsies, they can go on for so long because nobody knows how to end the game. But I actually don't think that has anything to do at all with the start of the game and everything to do with people not knowing like when to go do the fire giant or like how to group up. And so I don't think that increasing the snowball in the early game is going to do anything to benefit any of those games going long. And I do think it's just going to make the upper end ranked experience objectively worse. So not looking forward to that at all. But thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.